All right, everybody, welcome back to GG Gaming. It's been way too long since the last episode because, things come up and people drop out. But I think this time we might have a committed co-host in Player 2, Kiba.
What? Hello, everyone.
You want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Kiba Walker. I'm a voiceover actor and a musician. You can hear my voices in a lot of different things across video games to audiobooks to anime, all that. And I've been doing all that kind of stuff for like 15 years collectively, entertainment business stuff.
Really? 15?
Yeah, since I was younger. I've been singing since then. And
I've known you for a little while, and even I didn't know it was 15 years.
yeah, no, I just counted everything up of when I actually started like doing performing, and I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
And so yeah, and I love video games like a lot, and I'm excited to be on here. Plus, I'm also
Nice. I'm excited to have you.
I'm in Spirit Legend, so
yeah. For those of you listening who don't know, I have a comic series called Spirit Legends, and we're doing a motion comic. And so I actually met Kiba when he auditioned to cover the role of somebody else who dropped out. And I was like, Kiba, you nailed it. And we've just been buddies since then.
Yeah, it's been really fun working on that. I love it. And if you haven't checked out the comic, you really should. It's awesome. It's really cool. And,
Thank you.
Andrew's doing an awesome job with it.
Thank you. It's funny because I mean... Yeah, I named the character after myself, I'll admit that, but
hey, it's okay.
And I voice him too. But I mean, the funny thing about this podcast, in terms of me and you co-hosting it, is the fact that the two characters in the series are best friends that we each voice, and I have an audio drama in the form of a fictional podcast that has the two characters talking. And I thought about that, and I was like, wait a second. Now we're going to be on the podcast together, and that's just kind of funny.
It's ironic, isn't it? It's great.
I didn't even mean it like that, but I was just like, wait a second. This sounds familiar.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, so unfortunately this is not live. We would like to get this to be live. We got to figure things out. As I mentioned in a past episode, the program I'm using I don't know, it doesn't pick up the audio from Skype. So if I did this live, basically Kiba would be mute the whole time.
Oh, sad.
So, for now, we'll record and then upload afterwards. Kiba sent out a call over his Twitter, and what else was it you sent?
Facebook. So if you want to send us any questions, we'll try to answer them during this episode, but if we don't get to it, since this is not live, we can always do it next episode.
It's funny because people listening to what you're saying now won't hear it till it's too late.
Exactly.
But they'll know for next time.
Exactly. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Kiba Walker VA. And you can also send us your questions with the hashtag GG Gaming. And then anytime that comes up, I will get to read your questions. So will Andrew, and we'll answer them when we can.
Same with me. My Twitter is Drew Maru Comics. There's an underscore in between Drew Maru Comics. That's DREWMARU_comics.
Yep.
I think my Instagram and Tumblr might be the same, but Twitter is probably the easiest just to ask a question. The problem is you're limited to text, so I'd say probably the better options might be to ask a question, one, under the comments for the YouTube video this is going to be posted on.
That would also work.
And two, under the comics on the Facebook page that's going to share the YouTube video. Mm-hmm. So YouTube and Facebook might be the best places to ask questions because it's all going to be condensed where the video is, plus you have more space to write. But hey, if you want to tweet at the show and you have enough room, then we'll check it out and answer any questions you might ask. We had, I think, one question on the show so far. I don't want to call it a pity question, but it was a friend of mine who asked the question. And I appreciated that. And it was an interesting question. Actually, I'd like to know the answer. I would like to know your answer to this question. Before we start. Well, technically we started, but I mean before we get into the what you've been playing kind of thing. But the question, if I recall correctly, was what video game world would you want to live in? And I had to go with Pokemon.
That was your answer?
Yeah.
My answer is Legend of Zelda.
Okay, how come?
It's one of my favorite gaming franchises, and just all around the fantasy aspect of things. The worlds are so cool, and
But
you
is it
know,
a world you'd want to live in?
yeah, totally. Like I could totally help out Link in his adventures. There's many different timeline forms.
I say that, but I would probably be like Malon or Talon. I forget whichever is the heavier one on the ledge.
Malon.
She's like, sorry, I could try, but
I could
fall
try,
asleep
but no.
outside the castle. So Legend of Zelda. Any particular era?
Honestly, I love them all, but if I had to go with my favorite Legend of Zelda game of all time, or my number 2 game of all time, I should say too, is Wind Waker. So that universe, just because the idea of like the open islands, and I love water and the sea, and just that idea is really cool, and I think it would be a really nice tame-ish place to live in. Besides like Twilight Princess World, where everything gets Twilight and all that.
Now, here's my 2 cents on that. A lot of video games make purposefully smaller towns just because, obviously, they're not going to go overboard and make an entire town's worth of houses and stuff. Now, in the sense of the islands kind of being symbolic of an actual town big enough to live in, that would be pretty cool. But if they remain the same size as they are in the games, I'd say they're too small to live in.
Well, I mean, maybe.
I think did that make sense?
That does make sense.
Like, for example, Pallet Town in Pokemon is like 2 houses, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's kind of like a symbolic thing in a sense where it's like, it's a big town, like it's got to be like a somewhat big town, and you understand that they're not going to program like a whole town's worth of empty houses, like from a gameplay perspective the town needs to be small. So in that sense, if you were to actually live on an island in Wind Waker, I would imagine the town would be somewhat big enough to be a real town to live in,
Exactly.
Because as it stands, I wouldn't really want to live in any video game town because they're too small.
Yeah. But there's a lot of video game
But
towns.
Kakariko Village is like 3 houses.
Yeah, I mean, this is not meant for many people.
It's more like Kakariko Front Yard.
That's exactly true.
Welcome to Kakariko House.
Kakariko House, Kakariko Lawn.
I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Kakariko.
I think it's Kakariko, yeah.
Kakariko.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
I actually, speaking of Zelda, I like the timeline split, but I don't like the Hero Falls timeline because I like the fact that the timeline was caused by something the player did, like something that Link actually did. Like he winded up, like the characters winded up splitting the timeline when Zelda sent him back in the past, and the Hero Falls is kind of like more like what if, and I'm like no, because Link never actually lost.
Yeah, but that's true, but I think it's still a cool idea because it does explain a lot of things, especially with Majora's Mask. And the idea of...
But that takes place during one of the timelines, though.
But what I'm saying is that's what kickstarts the whole idea of these multiple timelines, really. That's like the big thing, because it was where Link technically died already, and this whole alternate...
That's a theory.
But I love it. It's a game theory.
Yeah, but he's in Twilight Princess.
That's true. No, that's totally true. But what I'm saying is like, I think the Hero Falls timeline is a really cool idea, and
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. But I watched a video on somebody making sense of it, and I really liked that. The Hero Falls timeline coming from the fact that every time you go back, you go in the past and the future, every time you go back to the past and you change something, when you go into the future, you're going into a new future because you changed something in the past.
Exactly.
So with that in mind, the old future you're left behind, Ganondorf still rules, and Link's not there. So that would be the Hero Falls timeline because the hero never saved anything. He kind of just disappeared because he branched off to a different future. Do you know what I mean?
That's cool.
It's
yeah,
cool.
No, that totally
it's
makes sense.
cool, but the only problem is the fact that the Hyrule Historia specifically says Link loses to Ganondorf. So I like to think of it as losing in the sense that he was removed from that branching timeline. In the end, it's moot because it's just a split, But I like a split coming from something one of the characters actively did as opposed to a what if. So
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool.
So, what have you been playing lately?
No, I'm supposed to ask you that.
You're supposed to ask me?
It
God,
doesn't matter.
I don't know how it works.
I've been playing I played a lot since the last episode.
I bet.
And I can't quite remember what the last episode, like what I played since the last episode. But I'll tell you, I've been playing Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key.
Oh, same.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty addicting, and I spent money on it because I was addicted. And then I had to back up a bit. I was like, whoa, I spent maybe like close to $40 now, and I'm like, I gotta stop. But I think I'm on mission or quest. I'm almost at 200, and then they added in more, right? So, I was trying to max out my my medals, and I realized that you can only carry like one maxed out medal unless you expand your costs, your Keyblade cost.
Oh man, that game takes up too much time of my life. Like really, I get so many notifications, and I'm like, can't right now. I'm recording something, or like, oh, I'm in the middle of like a rehearsal and I can't. I've been playing Star Fox Zero.
Nice. How is that? I've
So
been wanting
good.
to try that out.
So good.
Really?
I'm really happy with how it turned out. The only thing that the downside is that it does rely on motion controls a bit.
How much is a bit?
So, like, you use the tablet as the main controller, and the idea is that you have cockpit view on your tablet, and then you have regular third-person outside of ship view on the TV. And most of the time I'm using that, and it's fine, but there's sometimes you have to be really super accurate, so you have to tilt your Wii pad down so that it accurately shoots the weak spot. And so even though you turn it off, sometimes you do have to use it. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't ruin the game. It's just sometimes really inconvenient when you're like, oh man, I'm like freaking out because I'm almost dead and I've been taking all this damage because my motion controls are all, snafu.
Right.
But the game itself it feels very Star Fox 64-ish. The graphics are great. The story's there. The voice acting is really awesome in this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Lots of returning voice acting people from, I believe, the Smash Brothers franchise.
I was going to ask if it was the same.
I'm pretty sure the way it heard. I think the only one that's slightly different is Fox.
Okay.
I don't quote me on that yet, but I would definitely look that up. But yeah, the voice acting is great, and when you buy the game, you actually get a free copy of the tower defense game, Star Fox.
Right.
Defend, I think. That's
Only
our
certain
guard.
copies came with it, though.
Yeah, no, I was lucky to get one. I went to my local GameStop and I was like, hey, I want to get Star Fox Zero, and they had it combined in the pack for the regular retail price, and I was like, yes. So I got both. I've been playing that, and I've also been playing the remaster of, speaking of Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. That is amazing. Twilight Princess was actually one of my least favorite games.
Too.
One of my least favorite of the series. And then I played it on the actual, Wii U, and oh man, it just reviewed this whole world for me. It easily became one of my top 3 favorite Zelda games. So it's definitely worth it, and that Wolf Link amiibo is really cool because you get an extra dungeon. It's awesome. So those are the things I've been playing.
Nice. Yeah, I want to. I really wanted to play that, and I have it, and I got the special edition of it with the amiibo. I just haven't played it yet.
It's so good.
It's just no time. I mean, I say I don't have the time. Like I do, but I don't. Like I need to work on stuff, and it's just like By the way, I'm looking on Twitter. I saw what you posted, and I have a new. Did you just start following me?
Apparently, I thought we were already following each other, but apparently not.
Oh, whatever. I think I was following you.
Yeah, you should have been because I saw your notification. So I know you were following
too.
me.
No, I have the option to follow you. What the heck? I thought we were following each other. We are equally mad at each other.
Yeah, equally.
That's funny.
I did get some questions on my Facebook already, though. So
really?
That, yeah.
We'll get to it at the when it comes
yeah.
down to the Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it comes down to the questioning thing.
Yeah.
How many you got so far?
I've got 2.
Oh, that's fine. Have you been playing anything else?
Something I've been addicted to is Fire Emblem Fates.
Oh snap! That's the other thing I was playing. Yes, Fire Emblem Fates. How far are you in that?
I beat both, and Revelations.
You beat all 3?
Yeah. I got the special edition.
I beat
so...
Birthright and same here. I beat Birthright and Conquest, but I'm still playing Fates right now.
Oh, I can't even with that game.
I stopped not because I wanted to stop, but because I'm trying to get all the children before I advance further in the game, because then those quests will be harder.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, in a sense, farming for children.
Farming for children. That's
and
so weird.
I got a little bit bored with farming for children, and then Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key came along, and I was like, do I farm for children or do I play Kingdom Hearts,
Yeah,
my favorite series? So it's not. I didn't stop playing Fates. It's just like on a sort of hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still play it here and there. I like pick it up and I search for a place to battle. So I go to like, what's it called? Search, not recruit, but like you search for a battle. Mm-hmm. And I always go to the Hoshido Plains because they're like weak enough so that any of your party members can beat the enemies there. So I just do Corrin and the 2 people who I want to get busy.
I'm just too focused on my favorite characters in the game. And
who did you marry? Did you marry anyone?
No. I don't like anyone. I don't like any of them. Like, and the people I would marry, I can't.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I think actually I did start playing again, and I plan on marrying what's her name?
You can get an A rank, but you can't get kids with guys.
Yeah, no. Well,
unless you make yourself a girl.
Well, that's true, and that's what I'm saying. So I might have to do that. But I married
Kiba.
I want a Kiba. I want to marry what's her name? I can't remember. It's it's in Birthright because I hated all the Conquest characters, to be honest.
Really?
I don't like them. I want to marry Hana. Yeah. I love her to death. I think she's great.
Really?
Yeah.
See, one of my favorite girls I ended up not marrying at all. And I'm a little disappointed, but I didn't marry because I was just like, I want my daughter to have cool hair color. It was like a stupid reason.
That's okay. That is A-okay.
Like, cause like, who ended up kind of being my favorite girl had brown hair, and I was like, I think it'd be cooler if my daughter had blue hair, you know? Plus, I was thinking, like, also from a story perspective and not necessarily my favorite character. So, Birthright, I went with, oh, crap, why did I forget the names?
Which ones?
The girl with the red hair, who tried she's a Pegasus rider who tried to... Hinoka.
Oh, yes, I love her, too.
Yeah, Hinoka, I married her. I actually wanted to marry her when I was playing Birthright. Conquest, I married... Why am I forgetting their names already? Camilla?
Okay.
I thought it'd be kind of like a funny mirror because they're kind of like the rival ones. But she's kind of sexy. But, I mean, I was kind of like against marrying her in the beginning, and then she grew on me. Because at first, like, I was kind of hating the Nor siblings, and then they kind of grew on me. I think it was just a consequence of playing Birthright before Conquest. And then the ninja lady, I think Kagero, she was the one who was becoming my favorite. And in one of either Birthright or Conquest, one of them, she became one of my like really strong characters. And I was like, I'm gonna marry you in Revelations. And Revelations came along, and I was like, I think from a story perspective, it'd be better if I married Azura, because like Corrin and Azura are together the whole time. I'm like, I feel bad not marrying Azura.
No,
so I wound up marrying. I married Azura, and I'm like, my daughter's gonna have blue hair. That's cool. And but the whole time, I keep inviting Kagero over to our house. It was like, come on, threesome, come on. So she comes in, she's like, oh, we're gonna do our arts and crafts. I'm like, yeah, our arts and crafts.
Wow. That was literally me with Kaden and Hinata.
Yeah.
And Takumi. I was like, yes, all three of them.
I know, it's like, why can't I marry more than one?
Oh, no.
Why can't it be Fire Emblem Harem? Oh, boy. So if I have to choose between those four, it's gonna be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Hinoka, Camilla, Azura.
I would have picked Hinoka out of all of them.
She's
honestly.
cool. She's like the sweetest one that's in terms of like she's like the sweetest one who likes you.
Uh-huh.
You know? Like Camilla's sweet in a motherly way and Hinoka's sweet in like a childhood sweetheart way.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
You know? And Azura is she's sweet in her own way. like in a sense that you both have something in common. And Kagero's just sexy. I was like,
That's
can there be a
Kagura.
fourth one called Fire Emblem Andrew's Wife? Fire Emblem Kagero.
Fire Emblem Kagura, just that's it.
Yeah. Oh, man. So I got as far as chapter 20-ish, and then I kind of stopped so I could farm for children.
Perfect.
I got like the majority of the paralogs set up to play. I think I have maybe like 5 more kids to, like 5 more couples to get together. I don't want to spoil anything. I really want to avoid spoilers on the podcast.
Yeah, no spoilers.
But chapter 20-ish
Yeah.
in Revelations. And I was like, wait, before I get farther, because the farther I get, the harder the paralogs will be.
Yeah.
So.
But, you know what games I'm excited for, just to let you know.
Oh.
I'm very, very, very excited about Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Sun and Moon!
And I'm very excited about Pokemon Go. Very, very excited about that.
You want to know something cool that somebody pointed out about Go and Sun and Moon? Is that they each have something similar. All 3 of them have something similar in their logo, where Go kind of looks like the third of the games and is kind of like the Earth. So it's like Sun, Moon, and Earth.
Oh,
I was like, huh, that's interesting. Because in the logo of Go, you see like the globe, like the top hemisphere. And let me see if I don't have the logos in front of me, but let me just see if I can find it real quick. Pokemon Sun. Sun and Moon. Let me look at the logos here. Okay, so when you look at the logos, the word sun and the word moon is like the top part of... is like the top hemisphere of something. There's like a round shape. And in the logo for Pokemon Go, it has the same thing. So somebody pointed that out and was like, so is Go like the third of them in a sense? Like not officially the
That'd be
third,
cool.
but it's kind of like Sun, Moon, and Earth. And I was like, huh, that's interesting.
that'd be cool.
So I was talking with a friend of mine, and before I say what I think, what do you want to see Sun and Moon introduce? Like, is there something in Sun and Moon, like in this new generation of Pokemon, this next Pokemon game, is there something that you really want them to introduce? Like a playing mechanic to either make something easier or to maybe make something more challenging. I have something in mind, but I wanted to know, like before I said it, I wanted to know what you were thinking. Like
A couple of things I've been wanting to do for, you know, a Pokemon game. First of all, is able to travel across all regions.
Yes.
Which would be amazing. Which we're technically getting with Pokemon Go because it's very open world, literally. But besides that, I really
Damn it,
want...
Arceus is in Antarctica. I gotta go there.
Shit. But I've also wanted to basically be my own gym leader.
That would be awesome.
Which would be cool because it would be like a multiplayer thing where, you know, you would do online gym requests and there'd be sort of like an online gym system. So you would do the regular single player quests and gym and beat the game, and then you could go online and basically find this new online gym system where players across the world, like the best ones, are picked for gym leaders, or you can work your way up, and therefore it's always a different experience, and you get badges for that.
There's actually a YouTube channel that's doing something kind of like that, where they take YouTubers, they make them gym leaders, and they have like an online show. I forgot the name of the show. I probably should know it, but it's like you can actually sign up to play it, and like they could pick you. I just thought it was interesting. And if you beat somebody, if you beat one of the gym leader / YouTubers, you actually get one of their custom badges sent to you.
That's
which
cool.
I thought was cool.
But the one other thing is I really badly want to be able to join the team that is basically the antagonist. Make it
The
a true...
closest... Oh, wait. No,
I was going to say, make it a true RPG, just like Pokemon Coliseum, where we were basically a member of Team Snag'em, technically, which I loved that game. But it'd be cool if it was like a Team Rocket thing where you could basically start out very neutral, and then the decisions you make throughout the Pokemon games determines what side you want to align with. Everyone played Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, and there was that guy at the end of Cerulean Sea.
Was the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire hidden bases.
Yeah.
But it's not quite the same.
But
they can elaborate on that, and that'd be awesome.
Well, if they do it like, when everyone played Red, Blue, and Yellow, and they got to Cerulean City and went to go to Bill's house, and the guy was like, do you want to join Team Rocket? And you didn't even have an option. You know, it would be very cool if we could get an option to really, like, basically be this evil entity and change how the game ends. And
well, I would love to see that implemented as like and the NX or the Wii U as not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for, an MMO, not necessarily an MMO, but like a game where you can interact with people, kind of like in the vein of the Souls games, where where like a couple of people could join you. One second. And it would be God, what the fuck fudge was I saying?
Dark Souls.
Yes.
Dark Souls.
Like in Dark Souls, you can team up with people. And they could join your game, and I think they usually have multiple servers. I don't really want to get back into that rant because I already had a rant on that in an older episode. But it would be better to have one server, so you can kind of join your friends' games. I think Red Dead Redemption did something similar, where you could kind of join with your friends and walk around with your friends and interact in that world. And like strangers who joined up with their friends, like you'd run into. Yeah. But I would love to see, not necessarily in Sun and Moon, but in like this console game where things they could play around with new ideas. I would love to see actually seeing the Pokemon you run into, and it might add in a different spin on trying to run into a specific Pokemon, because you see it's like, all right, now this Pokemon might be faster. Like let's say you run in, let's say for example a Metapod or a Kakuna might be hanging on a tree. They're not going to go anywhere, so they're easy to run into. But maybe something like a Rapidash might be harder to run into, so you can either sneak up on it, or you could take the bicycle, or there might be some new items to try and run into a Pokemon. Or you might have to find certain Pokemon. But in the similar vein of Chrono Trigger, where the enemies are always on the screen and you can avoid them, I would love to see a console Pokemon like that. But cool. The feature I would like to see implemented in Sun and Moon the most is some form of IV editor. And I mean that in the sense where they made EV training easier with the fighting mechanics. And I'm not sure how much you know of the EVs and IVs.
Yes.
But EVs are something you can control.
Yeah.
Based on what Pokemon you fight. I think it stands for experience value.
Yeah,
maybe?
It should be experience value.
Or something value, where you get additional points based on what you're fighting, so you can boost it in certain spots. I want to see, I wouldn't mind some sort of breeding minigame where you can have some kind of hand in manipulating or deciding the individual values, which is something you can't change once a Pokemon's born. So you just have to keep breeding and breeding until you get the IVs you want, and you don't even know the IVs. At least in X and Y, and I guess Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire came out afterwards, they have the chart so you can see where all the EVs were applied.
Exactly.
Excuse me, but you have no idea. The closest you know is some guy telling you, like, oh, your Pokemon has great whatever. And it's like, well, I don't know the specific individual values.
Yeah.
I was trying to breed for, I was trying to breed for a Honedge with a 0 speed stat for a specific strategy with it. And, I don't know how close I got to it, but I wanted the 31 as the highest. And I wanted the 31 in all of them and a 0 for that one. But, like, the fact that IVs are not necessarily random, but almost random, when it comes to breeding, you have a little bit more control over it. But the fact that it's so difficult, and, like, if you just catch a random Pokemon, they could have, like, really crappy IVs. And it's, like, it's disheartening to know, like, this Pokemon is not going to be the best it can be because it was caught with, like, low IV stats. And it's like, you don't know that.
Yeah.
At least if they added some kind of breeding minigame where you can actively change the IVs of a Pokemon, that would be like the last thing I think it needs to really make the competitive metagame of Pokemon way more easily accessible. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of a turnoff, the fact that the metagame requires so much, I guess, insight or knowledge on little things that, like, they only recently started explaining EVs in the game, and that's been going on for a while. So they hardly even touched IVs. So I really want Sun and Moon. I mean, of course, I want them to keep the EV game because, you know, that's kind of like the training aside from leveling up that, you know, in order to get competitive. But the IVs is the other thing where it's just like you need you practically need a max IV Pokemon to even, like, stand a chance against in the metagame. And it's disheartening.
Yeah.
It's like I can't use my starter because they didn't come with 31 IVs. Slightly different based on the hidden power element you want. And I just think it's kind of stupid that it's almost luck based.
Yeah.
And before people get up all in my grill over it, yeah, I know you can manipulate it by breeding, but it's just so. I mean, I want to say it's difficult, but then people say get good. But it's just like it's difficult in the sense that I don't find it fun to breed for IVs.
Yeah.
Like, I find that annoying.
It's
Like,
tedious.
I would prefer to just catch a Pokemon and that Pokemon will have the ability to be highly competitive. You know? Like, if I can manipulate its IVs and EVs based on the minigames, then that'd be awesome. Then so you can basically take any Pokemon and make it competitive. So that's where I stand. That's what I would love to see implemented.
So
some sort of
really quick, because one of these questions is really long.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We got a question or question or two. Really, 2 questions.
Really? Not 5 questions?
No, I wish. Question from James Hurd. He owns Innermind Studios and has been the producer of many audiobooks and series, including Innermind Legacy.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Look at all the people you know that I don't.
Hey, talk to him. He's really cool.
What's his name?
James Hurd. Yeah.
James Hurd?
Yeah.
Hi, James, if you're listening.
Hi, James. He will be listening after it's posted.
Cool.
But he says, now that Nintendo has announced the NX release date, do you think it's really even necessary anymore? Especially since Zelda Wii U has also been delayed to be released simultaneously with the NX version. Do you think it'll be a similar situation to how Twilight Princess released on the Wii and GameCube, and a lot of people liked either or? I have a answer for this.
Good, because I'm trying to
process it.
I'm trying to process the question.
So basically, Nintendo just announced the NX, their new console release date, for March 2017. And with the idea that Legend of Zelda Wii U, its working title, was supposed to come out last year, and then they pushed it to this year. Now they announced that at E3 we'll get to see more about the NX in that game, but Zelda Wii U will be released at the time of the NX simultaneously with the Wii U. Now, from what I've heard with the NX is it will be able to play Wii U games, very similar to like how the Wii U could play Wii, etc., etc. And now the first part of the question is the NX necessary? Honestly, I think it is. For Nintendo
necessary to be... in what sense?
Well,
necessary for the company to go forward. Necessary for having something new for the fans, or like necessary in what sense?
I think the question kind of leans towards necessary in the fact of the company and terms of like going with the ebb and flow of the entertainment industry. I do think it's necessary just because Microsoft and Sony have been powerhouses these past almost a decade now. You know, PlayStation 2 just recently went out of commission, and that's been out for almost a good 20 years, almost. And, you know, PS3 still going strong. PS4 is revolutionary right now with their VR system. Xbox One is getting their own VR system. And I think for Nintendo to really keep up with the tide of how next generation consoles are going, they need to release something that's gonna push the boundaries. And even though the Wii U is a great console, it's one of my favorite consoles they've released since the GameCube. I think Nintendo doesn't necessarily have to worry too much, but I think with these past E3 conventions, you know, Nintendo has been kind of the underdog just because a lot of people are so used to the idea of having, you know, 60 frame per second games and all these shooter titles and all the big RPGs like Dark Souls, Uncharted, Mirror's Edge, all that kind of stuff, Call of Duty, that Nintendo doesn't get because, you know, they're technically like a third party primary company. They don't get all the Activision games. They don't get all the you know, From Software, Bethesda games. So when you don't have those in your wheelhouse for people to decide at the register, like, what do I want to get? You're kind of stuck in an area of like what appeals to everyone. And I think the NX is going to be the next thing for Nintendo to really take back the crown, because Nintendo is a great company. They've got so many great franchises that I think they can really push. Like, I would love a new Metroid game that's actually like Metroid Prime. You know, they're starting to go back to their roots with, you know, the new Star Fox game and how that's going to be playable on the NX. And with the new Zelda game, I think the sales are just going to go up. But now the second part of the question is basically, you know, is it going to be the same situation in regards to Zelda with how Twilight Princess was released with the Wii and GameCube? And honestly, I don't think it's going to be a problem, because that was the reason why, honestly, I didn't like Twilight Princess. I played it on the Wii first. And just how janky the Wii was at first, I didn't like it. And then I played it on the GameCube, and it just was, for the time I played it, I feel like my mind, I think I was like, I had to be 11 when it came out or something. And I just didn't get it. You know, it was a little bit more advanced than the older games. And so I didn't like it. So coming back to it with the Wii U, with Twilight Princess, I was like, oh my gosh, this game makes so much sense now, and I'm addicted, and I love it, and it's visually stunning. It was things that you didn't think about. You were mostly like, I want to play the game and just be easy and beat everything. Like, you really didn't have a thinking sense when you were younger. There were some people who did, but...
I was perfect.
Yeah, I bet you were.
I don't even remember where I was at the time. I think I was first year in college.
See, that's like, I think I was like 11 or 12 when I played Twilight Princess. I had to be. But
how old are you?
21.
Oh, okay, I'm 27.
Yeah, so it was probably...
I'm almost 28.
So it was probably almost around that time.
And, like, the fact that you're probably more successful than I am right now, and you're younger than me, I'm so sad.
No, it takes...
But I'm happy for you.
It happens at
but
different
I'm so sad.
times.
We have completely different career paths anyway.
Yeah.
With, like... maybe an interest in the other. See, I'm interested in voice acting.
I'm
not
interested
to go
in art.
not to go on a tangent, but I mean, I'm interested in voice acting. But I think my passion lies in like the cartooning and the comics. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but
with the back to the question though.
Yeah. I didn't.
No, that's okay.
I didn't want to go away from that. I was just like, I was just like,
Something you didn't
I
realize.
realized something. But continue.
I don't think it's going to be an issue because the Wii U is a great console. The GameCube and the Wii were two very different consoles. GameCube didn't have motion controls. It was very controller based like the old consoles, but it was how they introduced the Wii, where it was all motion controls, where people were kind of divided. With the Wii U being less about motion and more about the gameplay, I think it's going to be a situation where it doesn't matter which version you get. Of course, it's probably going to look 10 times better on the NX. They have been saying it's going to be their first full 1080p console, even though the Wii U technically was that.
The Wii U is beautiful.
The Wii U was great. But a lot of people were like, well, this is not true 1080p, the true diehard graphics people. I don't think it's going to be an issue, and I think people are going to like the game either way. It's a brand new Zelda game for people to grasp onto. We haven't had one since Skyward Sword. Technically, like a console one besides the 3DS, which I count Link Between Worlds, but technically it was more of a kind of a filler to me. It was played very much like the NES.
Worlds is a filler to you?
Well, I don't mean it as like it doesn't exist in the timeline.
Oh, it was a filler in the sense
like
to satiate you until the next console came out. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because Link Between Worlds was great, and it was a nostalgic throwback to like NES versions of Legend of Zelda, but it wasn't a full Zelda adventure we've been accustomed to. Because after what Skyward Sword was, even though that game was good, people wanted the new Zelda game for the Wii U. And we were getting a remake of Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time and, Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, Wind Waker came out again, which I was happy about that.
Oh, the HD Wind Waker was a million times better than the original. In my opinion, even though the original, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree.
Yeah. But I don't think, I think just having a new Zelda title in general, it will tell people that they can keep their Wii U so they don't have to throw down another $300-$400 for however much the NX is going to be right away.
But the Wii U is going to be obsolete.
I don't necessarily think so. Because
I hope not. Because I have one.
Because the Wii U, it hasn't been around long enough. And the GameCube is still pretty damn good. I picked one up again the other day because I had to have one again, and it still runs pretty nicely. The games are still great. I don't think there's such a thing as a Nintendo console going obsolete in the sense of I have to get rid of it. Because NES people still play. N64.
No, but obsolete in the sense where it doesn't get more support.
Which, I mean, Wii doesn't, and the GameCube obviously doesn't, but I don't think the Wii U is going to be obsolete anytime soon. I mean, the 360's been around a long time too, and it's just now going obsolete.
A lot of people complain that there are no games. I mean, there are games, but my my interpretation of that is yay, because I don't have enough time to play them all. So I'm like, I have a good chunk of games that make the Wii U warrant a purchase for me, because I don't have as much time to play. Like I got Splatoon for Christmas, and I've been wanting to play it, and I haven't even opened it yet because there've been other games to play. So for me, for somebody who doesn't have as much time to play consoles, as like lately, I don't mind not having a huge library of games, but I can understand for people who have the time to play it. It's frustrating, but I think where I stand on the NX is I don't think it's necessary in the sense that it can be harmful at this stage where not enough information is being released. It could be harmful if it doesn't stand up to the expectations that have kind of been what's the word I'm looking for? There's expectations right now because of how hush-hush it is, that if it doesn't meet those expectations, it could be detrimental in a sense. But I think the idea of a new system is actually really important. It needs to at least be capable of playing PS4 and Xbox One games, so that it can be in that market where third-party companies that are putting their games on the Xbox One and PS4 can also put their games on I guess, the NX in this case. But if they can do an above and beyond where they also have their own unique games. I guess in the sense that the PS4 has Sony exclusive games and the Xbox One has Microsoft exclusive games. So the NX should have Nintendo exclusive games.
Of course.
But all three should be able to have the same other games and not just like the Xbox and PlayStation have their own,
Yeah.
It's like the Nintendo's fallen behind in the sense where it hasn't been able to play its competitors' games. Now, if it becomes the third, like if it becomes like level with them where they can play the same games plus their own games, then I think that's what they need. People who like playing, let's say for example, I mean you mentioned it earlier, or we both did, like Dark Souls for example. It's on the Xbox and PlayStation consoles, but not the Nintendo console. If the Nintendo can make a system where Dark Souls can also be played on a Nintendo console, then it gives people more games to play, more options. The Nintendo, in my opinion, needs a console that can compete in the sense where it can play those games. And then each system, Xbox, PlayStation, and whatever Nintendo has at that time, in this case the NX, they can all play the same games, minus each company's specific games.
No, I totally agree with that.
Because as it stands right now, they've fallen behind, where it's like, well, I'm going to play Dark Souls, I'm going to play this game, I'm going to play that game, but I can only play it on the Xbox and PlayStation, so, I mean, it's great that Nintendo has its own games, like, oh, I want to play Super Smash Bros., I gotta get a Wii U, but if they could also play those other games, then you're kind of like, I could play Dark Souls on here, but I can play Smash Bros. Too, It's like they need something to compete on that level.
Yeah.
And, I think it's necessary to do that. And I don't know what the NX is capable of, because nobody knows yet. Well, my dad works in Nintendo when he says this. But in the sense where what I think it should do, it's definitely necessary. It could definitely save them.
No, I agree.
But Nintendo's got it when it comes to handhelds. They've got the handhelds down.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited about the NX just because I think it will be something to surprise us, and it will have cross-platform play like Sony and Microsoft have been trying to do, and I think it'll be really great to see what they do next as a company. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
The next question we have is from Justin Hancock, and he says
Hi, Justin.
Yeah, hi, Justin. He says what is the worst game that you cannot live without?
Huh.
I have to think about this, so if you have one.
Worst game I can't live with. Like a terrible game that I enjoy, or a terrible game that I agree it's terrible, but I just like it because it's terrible.
How about either or?
I like a lot of games. I like a lot of things in the sense that I don't really dislike many things.
No, that makes sense.
Like, I can appreciate pretty much anything. So a lot of my friends, if I watch a movie that's rated really badly, and I'm just like, yeah, I enjoyed it. It entertained me. Mm-hmm. And my friends are like, oh, you have no taste. I'm like, I concur. I have taste where I could play anything. But I can't think of a game. I enjoy a lot of Sonic games that people think are terrible, and I'm just like, I thought that was awesome.
Like, which ones?
All of them.
Oh, God.
Sonic Hero. Oh, Shadow the Hedgehog was fun.
Sonic Heroes was great.
It was.
I liked Sonic Heroes. And as much as that's an unpopular opinion, I like Sonic Heroes.
How about Sonic 06? Because it was... What?
I said,
Because it's so funny. Like, I think the fan reactions and the Game Grumps session of Sonic 06 was hilarious. So I can say that was a terrible game that I can't live without because it created so much great content and reactions. However, I enjoyed that game. So, there you go. I actually liked the lore that it... Because I'm a big fan of Sonic games. So, I like the lore that it introduced with like the creatures, Mephiles, Iblis, their fusion Solaris, the new the new areas, the Soliana. It's just more material for the comics to work with. And I read the comics, and they're great. But then again, I wouldn't say it was a bad game to me. Like, it wasn't a great game because it had a lot of flaws, but for some reason, I didn't have too much trouble with that. I hated the loading times, though. Oh, those loading times. Oh, God.
So, my game that I can't live without because it's so bad, but it's so good because I just love playing it. I had it. That's a hard question, honestly.
I know.
I would have to go with... you know what? I would have to go with Deadly Premonition.
I don't even know what that is.
It was a PS2 game that got transported over to the PS3 with a director's cut and stuff, and it has some of the worst dialogue and some of the worst, like, weirdest storytelling. It plays very similar to Silent Hill. And I love horror games, but this game was just so bad, but it was so good because it was just so different and it wasn't afraid to really be stereotypical. And the game is just, I don't know. I can't describe it without like actually playing it or anything. But on top of that, either that or it'd have to be probably maybe, let me think. I would have to go with... This is hard.
Now, here's a twist on this question, or I should say a question about the question. By bad game, are we talking about our interpretation of bad that we can't live without? Or by bad game, are we talking about widely considered bad but we enjoyed?
I think, honestly, it should be either, because I mean, that's personally my bad. That's a cult classic, apparently, so...
Because there's a lot of games that got low scores that I was like, hey, that wasn't a bad game. I like that game.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Same.
Like, I don't know off the top of my head how some games did, like the games I'm about to mention, but I absolutely loved Resident Evil 5. That might be my favorite Resident Evil game.
No.
What's wrong with you?
I don't like Resident Evil 5.
And my reasoning for it, I understand that it's straight from horror, but my reasoning for enjoying it was the gameplay and the mercenaries. Like, there were things that game did right. From certain perspectives, that game, in my opinion, was the best in what it did in those things. I think the gameplay was spot on. I think the controls were tight. Everything in terms of gameplay was just, like, top-notch. Using the control pad to switch between weapons, like the quick switch, that was just like, mwah, I loved that. That's like, that was the greatest. Because Resident Evil 4, I mean, in terms of story and like, I guess pacing with the horror was superior, but in terms of, pausing to take out your weapons and stuff, I mean, that's in lieu of the old games, but, excuse me, that's the midpoint between the classics and the modern games, where it's like, we gotta pause, because like they were switching to action. Resident Evil 5's weapon switching was top notch. Its gameplay was top notch. It was, I can't even see it as a horror game, but it was a fun game. I think as a game, like an action game with some horror elements, it was great. And for someone like myself who enjoyed the build-up of Wesker becoming this main villain throughout the whole series, working behind the scenes and everything, I think it was great as a conclusion to the Wesker arc. Not, and I'm not looking at it... I think it's because I'm looking at it from a different light that it was my favorite. A lot of people... Like, I'm not comparing it overall to, like, Resident Evil 4, which is, like, the best Resident Evil game. And I agree in certain respects, like, it was, like, the horror Resident Evil game. It, like, was perfect in certain things, but I think that the gameplay, and which I guess the weapon swapping is also considered gameplay, was best in 5.
Yeah.
Like, if they went back and they made Resident Evil 5's gameplay, and weapon switching for 4, I think that game would be even better. The upgrading in 5 was so simple. It was easy. It's like easy peasy. Just like, oh, let me pay some money towards this on the main menu. I don't have to speak to a merchant or anything. You know, whatever I earned at the end of the mission, I can apply to this weapon. And it was just like, it was a faster and more efficient way of upgrading and, you know, proceeding. And it's just, there were just some fun moments in that game. I just love Wesker. Just some of the lines and some of the things that are so cheesy that was just, I enjoyed it. I guess it was like, you know, it was my B movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, complete global saturation. Like, how can you not, like, and the guy on the ship, like, I don't even remember, he's just like, you're just in time for the fireworks show. Boom!
Yeah.
It's just like, how can you, it's like so cheesy, but it's just like, I love it. It's just like, there's just something about 5 that's my personal favorite. And I think what adds to it is the fact that I was completely and utterly obsessed and addicted with the mercenaries. I just, like, S-ranked every character, like, every stage, and I just kept playing that with people. Then it was like, the Mercenaries Reunion came out, and I was like, yeah, more mercenaries! It was just so much fun, and then I lost all my data.
And then you're gone forever.
I know. And then Resident Evil 6, you said you like horror games.
I hated Resident
You said
Evil
you like
6.
horror games, so I'm assuming you played it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now here's we're probably gonna overlap with what we disliked about it. The game, if 5 was what I thought was perfect gameplay, 6 kind of strayed from that. I appreciate and respect what they tried to do, but they failed. and I think the fluid movement, when they took away the tank controls, which it was interesting, but it's like the control. It seems like they tried to do something with, like, quick turning didn't work anymore. There was no point in quick turning in 6 because it's like you could just, like, press back on the controller, and it's like you want the camera to switch behind you. It's like, okay, but the quick turning just didn't work. It never worked. I don't know. Did you ever have problems quick turning in that game?
I did.
This is like, I just gave up with using it because it didn't work.
Well, my least favorite thing about that game wasn't necessarily controls. And it's the same reason I didn't
that was just one of the things I was talking about.
I know, but it was literally the same reason why I didn't like Resident Evil 5 was it even though it was a great co-op game and it was a great, you know, third-person shooter, Resident Evil was more about atmosphere. And the thing I felt was missing from Resident Evil 5 and 6 were atmosphere. Just because Resident Evil 6 tried to put too many things in one. Resident Evil 5 really focused on the action shooter that they were competing with. You know, they had to compete with Call of Duty and Battlefield. They had to compete with, you know, at the time, Dead Space in horror. Because everything was all... Resident Evil really wasn't a name for a while. Since Resident Evil 4 in that time span. And Resident Evil 5 came out and people loved it because it was a Resident Evil game. But for me... My favorite Resident Evil game is Resident Evil 2.
I love 2.
And just because...
Which they're remaking.
I know, and I'm so excited.
I can't wait.
But it's all about atmosphere. Good horror is atmosphere. It's not about jump scares. It's not about the visceral gore, even though Dead Space was really great. But the reason that game was great and why Resident Evil 4 was great and why Resident Evil 2 was great and anything like Outlast, it was the atmosphere of the game. And it was the idea of survival horror. And even though it was a third-person shooter survival game, it, for me, was not a Resident Evil game. And... You know,
I could see
that's
that.
an unpopular
It was
opinion.
like a different game that followed the same characters. It felt kind of like a spin-off in that sense, right?
Uh-huh.
But I still loved it. I think for me, the reason I loved it so much were the controls were just so tight. Mm-hmm. Like, if the controls were bad, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the game as much. Because I was somebody who like abused the controls to really get the greatest advantages in the mercenaries, like the quick reloading, glitching and stuff. And I was just like, it's like everything was just quick, 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 and it was just like, oh, I love it. And I grew to love it even more based on how I was using it, to the point where I like upgraded everything and was just a beast running around with infinite ammo everywhere. It's just like, I just had so much fun. Speaking of Resident Evil, where do you want the series to go?
I'll tell you where I want it to go. I'll tell you that right now. Resident Evil, for me, is the revolutionary of survival horror. So when it comes down to it, I want a game that will take the aspects of Resident Evil 4 with atmosphere, kind of the same style, like third person over the shoulder. Also with the idea of having the same camera controls as the old Resident Evil games, but also introducing something we haven't seen before. So we've seen hellhounds, we've seen, chainsaw zombies, we've seen regular infected, and we've seen, Wesker. But we need something that's going to revitalize the brand, So maybe introducing a new set of characters that we haven't really seen ever before. Getting that surprise story that really we can't determine, because we all know what's going to happen. With Revelations, what was so cool about those games was it was atmospherically creepy. And, we were introduced to Moira and all these other characters, and, we still had Claire Redfield. But we've seen those characters over and over again, and we know what they do, and we know how the story usually ends up. But it would be nice if we could get a Resident Evil game that would basically change the whole formula of horror games. Because right now the big thing in horror is this indie genre of horror. And games like Resident Evil, Dead Space, Outlast, and all those, they're doing well still, even though Dead Space hasn't had a game in a while, but they're not necessarily, what's the word I want to use? They're not necessarily competing anymore with this indie genre. And the horror genre, there's so many creators that have so many great ideas with horror that we need to utilize those. Like, for example, I'm excited about the Friday the 13th game.
I didn't even know there was
Yeah, it's like an actual, you play as Jason or the survivors, and you hunt down people in Camp Crystal Lake, and it's on Kickstarter right now. It looks great.
Wow.
They actually brought back the same actor who played Jason in the movies to do Jason's mocap. And voice and everything, and it looks terrifying. Like it's gory, it's 80s slasher, and that's the thing. As I'm a huge fan of slasher films, and that's something I've been looking.
See, I don't like slasher films or horror films. I just really like Resident Evil.
See, there's
I just got into Resident Evil, and it's just like that. Maybe that might play a factor in why I liked 5, because I don't necessarily like horror games, but I like the Resident Evil lore and the characters. So maybe just as a personal, I'm so full of gas today. Maybe as a personal opinion, and just like a personal thing, I liked the action because it wasn't horror, and I know Resident Evil is based on horror, but maybe just because I don't really like horror, that I just enjoyed 5 more. Maybe that's why. I never really actually thought about that. But
yeah.
What I want, is there anything you want to see story-wise, though? Because, like, they concluded the arc with Wesker, and Revelations 2 introduced... I mean, they slowly introduced this idea of another Wesker, and then Revelations 2, like, immediately introduced her and, like, got rid of her. And it's just like, oh, so much for having a second, like, arc of games based on this new Wesker, But here's what I want to do for the story's future. I want Wesker not necessarily to come back, but more so a shell of his former self. Because if he comes back, it makes the whole conclusion pointless of 5. I don't want to like step on the toes of what the story made so far. But I think by what they did with Wesker at the end of 5, plus by introducing his son Jake, they've set up a really great potential scenario where Wesker's fusion with the Ouroboros at the end of 5 in those missiles, some corporation could have taken any remaining traces of Ouroboros from the volcano, the missiles.
Yeah.
Inject it into Jake at some point in a new game. But that Ouroboros still has Wesker's conscience in it. I guess in the same vein as Orochimaru had like his conscience in his curse seals.
Yeah.
So even though he was dead, he came back. Now, I'm not saying Wesker would come back, but I'm saying he would have him and Jake would kind of be like Eddie Brock and Venom in the sense where you could play a single player camp. Yeah, like you can play a single player campaign with Jake, but he can still converse to himself, like arguing with his father, who has now become a part of his subconscious.
Yeah.
And perhaps in some scenarios, the Ouroboros would come out kind of like Venom would, and he kind of has like this Wesker appearance, and he might be badass for a couple of cutscenes, but he might hurt Jake's friends, and Jake would take over, and he'd be like, no, I don't want to be like you, you know? So I just think that they could bring Wesker back as like something to use in the story to make Jake a bit more unique and have this relationship, father-son relationship, and you could learn more about Jake's past and how he came about. I just think it'd be really cool to bring Wesker back as like a shell of his former self, you know?
That'd be cool.
So I really wanted to see that. I really want to see that in the story, you know?
Yeah. So apparently we've got one quick last question.
Oh yeah, somebody just posted one?
So this is from Hunter Hayes. Hi, Hunter.
Wait, why does that name sound familiar?
There's a singer that's named that. but
Maybe.
But he's in my gaming channel with me. He plays a lot of stuff on YouTube with me. But basically he asks, which if you want to check out our gaming channel, it's called Nat20 Gaming. And so he's our nihilist of the group. So he basically asks, do you ship Chief and Cortana from Halo? And my answer is no, I do not ship Chief and Cortana. Wink, wink, yes, I do a lot. What about you? Did you play Halo a lot?
I never played Halo, so I have no idea.
No!
I've played the multiplayer before playing the game and deciding I didn't like it.
You're one of those people.
I'm interested in playing it.
You can't decide that Halo's you didn't like it from just multiplayer. No.
I know. That's why I would give it a fair shot, but I don't necessarily like first-person shooters.
Yeah.
Except for the first-person shooter elements in Conker's Bad Fur Day, and the Darkness and the Darkness 2.
Yep. Those are good.
I think those were the only first-person shooters I've actually played and was like, yo, this is awesome. Oh, man. So is that all the questions?
That's it.
We did skip the part where we were going to ask if there was anything coming up that we liked, but I think you actually said at one point,
I'm excited for
I'm looking forward to
Pokemon.
Something coming out.
Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yes, that's what it was.
I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about Kingdom Hearts 3 eventually.
Yes.
And Final Fantasy 7.
There's like so much I can talk about, but
we'll save it for another time.
Yeah, we'll have to save it for the next episode, which it seems like if we're both going to commit to a week, this would probably be next week. Because we have hit the hour mark about 8 minutes ago, and there's a time difference between me and Kiba. Yeah. See, it is now 12 a.m. for me, and for Kiba, I think it's 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And I would like to throw our video and audio into Final Cut Pro and get this up before I go to sleep. So I think now would be a good time to wrap it up. Remember, guys, you can ask any questions, and it seems like a good half of our show was discussing those questions, which is a good thing. You know, I'm not saying that as like, oh my god. I'm saying that as like, yes, we had stuff to talk about.
We did.
So keep those questions coming. Kiba, get your fan base to ask questions because I don't have fans.
Hey, I'm your fan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to plug anything before we wrap this up?
Anyone that's listening that's in the California area, I'm going to be at Asahi Con as a special guest this Saturday.
Nice. I don't know what that is, but nice.
Yeah, it's an anime convention in Antioch, California. I'll be there this Saturday. So it'd be cool to see you there. And if you guys are interested, Riot is actually episode 1 is coming out next month. I'm finally, after struggles with the art teams and stuff, so hopefully we'll be able to get that out there and you guys can check it out and all that. So yeah, what do you want to plug?
I'm always going to plug my comic,
Do it.
Spirit Legends.
Do it.
There
Matthew
seems to be
approved.
a nice... What?
I said Matthew approved.
Who's Matt? Is that your name?
No.
I just know you by Kiba.
I'm talking about Matt from Spirit Legends.
Oh, yeah, the character Matt.
My name is Kiba.
Because I know him as Matt, not Matthew.
I know.
Even though, yes. There seems to be a nice mix of lovers and haters of it, but I think if you have haters, that means you're doing something right.
That's how I
So, actually, somebody just recently started donating on my Patreon, finally, and I was like, yes! So, check out Spirit Legends. You can also check it out on Facebook, on my YouTube, which this video is going to be on my YouTube. So, on this account, I have some motion comic episodes, which Kiba started voicing Matt in episode 2. And the fictional podcast, which is the audio drama. And I say fictional because it's well, one, because it's not like this where we're just talking, but it's actually scripted for the characters as an audio drama. And 2, it's not necessarily canon, it's kind of semi-canon. So like they'll cover events that happened, but the fact that they're talking in a podcast probably didn't even happen isn't happening in the canon of the series. So it's kind of up in the air thing, just like to learn some inside stuff. But yeah, that and my Patreon, if you're interested in it, should be Drew Maru, the DREWMARU. Drew as in Andrew and Maru as in Orochimaru.
Yep, that works for me.
And if you would like to contribute to the comic to help me work on it full time and give more work for Kiba to voice, it goes around. we have issue 3 is done, and the episode is going through the finishing animations. I don't animate it; somebody else is animating it. But I'm told that it's going along. So, yeah, the more donated, the more work gets done, the more stuff for Kiba to voice, the more the merrier.
Yes.
So do that. And yeah, if you follow GG Gaming on Facebook, and you could ask questions on there, and I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else to plug aside from my own Instagram and stuff, and it's just like, it's probably the same name. I don't even know it. Well, all right, I guess that's it, guys.
Okay.
See you next week, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye. And I stopped recording the video. Let me go to stop recording the audio.